back. It's the Rap Lizards here. We're doing this little intro because, as you're going to see, we recorded a whole episode on food. We're very proud of it. But it was recorded a few days, in actuality, before Doom passed, which was a few months back at this point. And us, as well as the rest of the world, we just got the news a few days ago on New Year's Eve of Doom's passing, and we felt we owe it to him to just give him his flowers, or show the love. Yeah. We don't want to just put that episode out because we had no idea he passed, or it was not in our consciousness, and we just want to send him off with love.
In fact, I'll even go off of that. If you remember, we did that album because we'd gone through a few weeks where each of our picks the previous week were something that at least one of us weren't so much into. So if you remember, that the pick for Food was actually my pick because I knew it was something that we all loved, and I wanted to sort of bring us back, ground us back as the Rap Lizards to something that we could all like sort of gel with and sort of bond over,
And those other disjointed but great episodes will be coming out shortly. They haven't been released yet because we're a little backlogged here.
We're still editing, Rap Lizards season 1.
Yeah, exactly. They're great episodes. They make for fantastic episodes and conversations. But the point is, again, like, just goes to show how much we appreciate and loved MF Doom. He was one of the few artists that I knew that if I picked an album by this guy, we'd all love it, and we'd all sort of come back and ground ourselves over. So yeah,
100%. We Doom was one of those artists that our whole collective has been inspired by, and we've loved for years. Me personally, we go into it on the Viktor Vaughn episode, which we released a while back, and on this episode you're about to hear, just how much this guy inspires me, how much his music inspires me, and he was, is, and always will be my favorite MC ever. So I was just crushed on New Year's Eve. I'm
the one that told you guys in the group chat, right?
Yeah, when Dion sent the text, just MF Doom. Usually, Dion, I don't know if you know this, but every time one of our favorite artists or actors dies, you just send me their name. You don't even say why, and I go, oh, not again. I
know, but this one, like, I'm sure, like, there was a wave over all you guys that were just like, wait, no, he can't mean this, right? He's got to mean something, like he dropped an album or something like that, right? It couldn't have been.
Exactly right, man. I'm reading that thread with you guys, and it's New Year's Eve, and expecting to be congratulating each other back and forth, and we're talking about that, and I think my response was like a Darth Vader, Revenge of the Sith. No.
Yeah. By the way, just a shout out to my friend Rachel, who actually is the one that told me about it, because she's also a big Doom fan too. So, condolences to all of us. But again, just want to give credit to Rachel. Thank you for giving me that unfortunate update, but something that I needed to know and would have wanted to know. So thank you.
I thought Dion, we would have more time talking about new work by Doom.
That's the part that breaks my heart.
We had covered a little bit of his work already, which is I think correct, right? In our very early episode and this latest one, but there's so much of it, and I got the sense that this person is not near finished creating work. We got more, I think, than most geniuses that kind of leave the scene early. Yeah. So grateful for that, but we didn't get all of the insights and hilarious kind of philosophical takes that you get from Daniel Dumile.
Yeah. Gone too soon for sure. I feel, honestly, after the tears, and honestly, my first reaction was just pacing back and forth in my apartment with my wife, just kind of trying to calm me down. Like, this guy is like, his music
He's a god, man. Like,
and he's my hero. Like, honestly, he is. I know he is the villain, but he is my hero. You know what I mean? When I first heard his music, I was like, okay, so there's other people out there as weird as I am. You know what I mean?
Which Mos Def, remember, you want to bring up that line that Mos Def said.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it. We definitely talk about it in the food episode that's about to play, about how, Mos Def said it. Doom raps as weird as I feel, and nothing resonates more with me, So I was crushed, and my first response was just cursing to myself, pacing up and down the room in shock, then tears, and then what I was left with is gratitude. I'm so grateful that this man, who's been making music since 92?
I think the 80s, right? Because wasn't KMD from like late 80s with Sub Rock?
I think I think maybe he debuted on a Third Base album, which might have been 89, but don't quote us on that.
Yeah, whatever.
Mr. Hood came out in 91, 92.
Mr. Hood was 91, okay. And then Black Bass is what, 93?
93. And he was doing it for a long time, and he was extraordinarily prolific for a good stretch of that. And I just feel blessed that we were alive and in a time where he was making music, and that we got to know all of it. And I have a feeling there'll be some posthumous stuff coming out, because he recorded a lot of projects that never saw the light of day. So
that was one of the things I was gonna say. I think so, Gary. What you were saying, that's the exact, like, the biggest thing that breaks my heart about all this is exactly what you said, is that we don't get new music from this artist anymore. And that's the part that every time I think about, like, that's the real thing that makes me really sad, because like we just lost like a genius who was making just incredible art that we were we were just being fed, it was great. But two things. One, Ben is right. He's definitely one of the artists that I'm sure has recorded a lot of material that hasn't been released, and that will, I'm sure, get released in the coming years. And not only that, but also remember, MF Doom was only half. There's also Metal Fingers, and Metal Fingers made a shitload of beats. Right before we started recording this little intro, we started talking about this artist named Afro, who I'm not sure if our audience is familiar with, but he's a really like a fast song. Afro's probably like early 20s now, but he was like a prodigy. He was like a teenage prodigy, like 6-7 years ago. Really fast rapping, but like good, not like just dope. Like rapping fast technical. And rap fast. Like he was technical, he was dope, and one of his biggest influences is MF Doom. I think he did an entire mixtape, or either an album or a full mixtape of just Special Herbs, which is Metal Fingers beats, for those of you guys who don't know, beats, and we just talk about it. Just the fact that there's an artist who, like, he almost dedicates his career to Doom music and Doom beats. You got people like Joey Badass, who are big influences and use Doom beats.
Sweatshirt.
And Earl, yeah, exactly, Earl Sweatshirt. And then what you're gonna find is, because he has so many beats, like, I guarantee people are gonna chop them up. People are gonna make new beats out of those, and I honestly can't wait for it. Like, I can't wait for it. I think it's obviously sad, but like, I'm looking forward to seeing what's gonna come, because I do think there's gonna be more to come. If there's any artist that's gonna release shit after their death, it's MF Doom. If I had to pick one artist that was gonna do this, MF Doom would be the guy. So buckle up. This ain't the last we heard of him.
That's true, D. And one of the things that MF Doom did for music and for us as human beings is to, I think, give us greater permission to keep it weird and to be ourselves.
100%.
He did things following, I think, a mold that was uniquely his, and it's different from other kind of strange musicians before him. I think very different, and I can't peg. I mean, there are many influences, I'm sure, that he had in building music, but it's hard to peg it so easily to things that came before MF Doom. I think his unique way of being is actually really encouraging.
100%. And Gary, on that, piggybacking on that, I think he's going to be remembered so positively because his whole career, right? His whole career, he was doing him. And his whole career, he never once sacrificed the art for the hit. he never, yes, KMD had some stuff on the radio, but none of it was pop. And when he was Doom, I feel like every ounce of his creative process was put towards the art rather than, oh, let's do one for the club, let's do one for the radio, let's do one for the ladies.
Did he have any hits?
Can you imagine? Let's do one for the club. That would be so weird,
right? And I think that's a learning experience. I always go back to a Royce the 5'9" quote. Pay attention to the art, not the wave, because if your music doesn't age well, even if you own your masters, you own 100% of nothing, because no one's going to remember it. I think Doom, not only is he going to be forever loved and remembered by us fans, but I think people are going to, get opened up to him and get, put on to him. It's almost like a rite of passage for the hip hop head, like discovering how weird and musical you can get, by putting on an MF Doom record. I didn't know you could. The first time I heard him was probably November Has Come by the Gorillaz. It's the first time I really became fully aware of him, and I didn't know you could make rap songs like that. I didn't know you could rhyme like that. Mm-hmm. I didn't know you could be surreal and not necessarily about something, yet you could be about everything. That's what Doom was. He was about everything all at once. He didn't necessarily hold to a narrative all the time, although he did have story songs, but he just was all over the place. It was like he could have just opened up his mind for you to. It's almost like you're listening to his thoughts when you're listening to him rap, like just voices, and just beautifully, masterfully arranged voices with such interesting understanding of rhythm and absence of beats and coming in behind the pocket. He's just he was effortless. That's the extremely technical and effortless in delivery. And man, I'm still processing his loss. But yeah, we just wanted. I mean, you guys have anything else you want to say about him before we get into the food episode?
Just like a quick little funny story with Doom. So I have this mask, right? The reason I have an actual Doom mask is for Halloween a couple years ago. My but now fiance, obviously then girlfriend Kate, we went to a small Halloween party of a couple of friends of ours that were having in Park Slope. And I had the whole Doom getup. I had the mask. I had the Knicks jersey. I had the Yankees fitted. I had a fake microphone. Like, I was Doom for Halloween. Granted, we're going to a Halloween party of literally 6-7 people. It's like a chill. It's a Halloween chill. But I was like, I wanted an excuse to dress up like Doom. Like, fuck it, right? But before we go, Kate goes to me. He's like, no one at this party is gonna get your costume, right? Not a single person at this party is gonna know who Doom is, right? Like, it's a couple throwing it. Like, they're not into So I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's Doom. I want to listen to it. We get to the party. The first person that I see in costume is the one of the people in the couple dressed as MF Doom. Dressed as MF Doom.
Not in such style.
not in such style. But that Matt, I know Matt listens. Shout out to Matt Williams. You still pull it off really well, man. I did have the mask game. I beat you on the mask game. I know that. But the point is, the first thing I did is I turned to Kate and I'm like, what about that? And to boot, Matthew's similar, then boyfriend, now husband, who throwing the party. He said the same thing to Matthew. He's like, "You're gonna dress up as Doom. You're not a single person gonna know who you are, right?" So me and Matthew, we bonded over that. Right? So just goes to show the influence of Doom. You don't even know. You have no idea how many people. He's not a household name per se. But maybe he kind of is, because how else would something like that happen? I love that. That was such a good feeling. Walking in and seeing another Doom just warmed my heart. It was just wow, okay, yeah, people have love for this guy.
Dion, it's also, it has to be a good feeling that Doom's natural gear is basically your gear just with a mascot.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, are we gonna just not talk about the fact that MF Doom, whose character was an arch villain that lived in a hideaway somewhere, actually had a hideaway that he died in, and then we didn't hear about his death until months later.
I know.
It's mysterious, and there are no details about it.
I didn't want to get too far into that because, like, God bless his family and our condolences. Yeah. I don't, just
right.
Fuck.
For whatever it's worth. Like,
yeah,
of
but
course.
it is kind of in like as
poetic,
Doom
almost,
away.
like, I hate to say it.
As MF Doom away to pass away, like months later, the world finds out. Like he's got.
We know nothing right now. I'm sure in future months we'll know more, but it is kind of tantalizing how little we know right now.
I think it's Peter Rosenberg that had tweeted out that day that's like it is so MF Doom like for him to have died and us to find out 2 months later. Like that is the most Doom thing ever. Like that's so well put. So well put.
The most Doom thing ever. And the fact that it's mysterious, I think I kind of hope, like, even though I the super fan in me would like is curious, like, how did he pass? It's almost perfect that we don't know, because he did everything he could to not be a celebrity while also having legions of fans. I don't know if anyone succeeded more in that area, having legions of fans out there obsessed with your work, yet you're not a celebrity and you're not in the limelight and you rarely ever did interviews and he never posted any personal information on social media for a reason. I think he didn't want the world to know what the fuck was going on in his life because he wanted to live a private life, and he succeeded in that, even in death.
Busta Rhymes in his tweet today said, "I wanted to believe this was another elaborate scheme by the great Houdini, MF Doom himself, but this time I have received confirmation that it wasn't."
Yeah. And that's what my friend Rachel, when she texted me, she said the same thing. She's like, I'm hoping that this is just a Doom skit or stunt or something like that. But yeah, it hit different. Like you could tell this was
I would never forgive Doom if that.
Well, I would want to know what the end game was. I would want to know what the end game was before I talk about forgiving. Yeah. Because if the end game was going to be something good, then I mean, like,
the end game is the world explodes. That's the end game.
Yeah. At any rate, we just wanted to get our thoughts out there, guys. I hope you enjoy the episode. You'll see how much we love this guy just from how we nerd the fuck out on this album. And trust me, if we continue to do this in years to come, we're almost definitely going to cover the great majority of his catalog, because you could record me for 11 hours straight talking about Doom and I won't stop. I won't stop talking about this guy. May he rest in peace. If there is something beyond this mortal existence, I really hope he's well wherever he is. And if not, we were really lucky to have him either way, man. So, signing off, Rap Lizards. Peace.
Remember, he wears a mask just to cover the raw flesh. A rather ugly brother who flows that's gorgeous.
All right, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the Rap Lizards podcast. Guys, before we get this show started, an episode truly near and dear to my heart, I felt it's important that I tell you something. So we skipped a week last week, and that's okay for a few reasons, but one of the reasons is I had to visit my brother in Philadelphia. This is all 100% true, so in case you're wondering. So I went to visit my brother. He's an excellent guitarist. He's in a band called the Ian Lander Band. And I, trekked out to Philly, but there's a secret thing that I also went out to Philly for that I didn't tell you guys about. And I wanted you to know from me first. And again, this is all 100% true. I heard that at a bar close to where my brother's band was playing, a big-time, nameless, because I'm not going to blow up his spot, record executive was having a meeting. And I heard through the grapevine that he was going to be there. And I have so much faith in this show, in this podcast, that I said, if I get this guy's money behind us, if I get his cosign and his advertising and his funding, that if I get him to back us and to promote us, then we could really make this thing huge. So this nameless record exec, right? He was sitting at a bar. And again, this is 100% true. So he was sitting at this bar. I snuck out of my brother's show. He didn't see me leave, so he can't confirm this, but I snuck out of his show. I went to the bar close by, and I saw him. I saw the guy sitting there. He was chomping on a big cigar. He had ladies around him, right? No mask on, a real dick. I had a mask, and I went up to him, and I said, "Excuse me, nameless record executive, you don't know who I am, but I have to tell you something. I have an idea. And I've been implementing this idea with my best friends, Dion and Gary. My name's Ben. We have a show where we talk about hip-hop. And I know you never thought of it, but let me tell you something. It has been going on like gangbusters. We love it, and the world's going to love it. But get this. Not only is it a show where we talk about hip-hop, but it is the only show where two Jews and a Guyanese dude talk about hip-hop. And again, I want to reiterate, this is all 100% true. You guys with me?
I believe it. Okay.
So get this, right? So this record executive, again, huge, right? If I told you his name, and I don't want to blow up his spot, but if I told you his name, you guys would all shit your pants. He turned to me and he goes, "I know who you are, Benny Lander. You think I don't fucking know about the R.I.P? You guys have been on my radar since the Viktor Vaughn episode." He said, "You think I don't know you're sitting on a gold mine with your idea about two Jews and a Guyanese dude talking about hip-hop? You think I don't know that?" And I was stunned, yet I had some faith. Like, wow, he knows who we are. We're doing something right here, guys, right? But then my dreams were crushed. He turned to me and he goes, "Yes, it is a good idea, but you guys are nobodies. Nobody's ever heard of you. You were born nobodies, and you're going to die nobodies. And for that reason, I'm not going to back your show. You guys are the dirt on the bottom of my shoe." And again, this is all 100% true. I was crushed. But then, as I was walking away in defeat, he said, "And guess what? I'm going to steal your idea. I'm going to put out a show where people talk about hip-hop. And not only am I going to steal your show where people talk about hip-hop, but it will be with two Jews and a Guyanese dude talking about hip-hop. It is going to be the two most famous Jews and the most famous Guyanese dude talking about hip-hop. And we will crush your show, and you will be nothing the same way that you are right now." I was crushed. I drove home that next day from Philadelphia, defeated, feeling like we should just hang it up. But then I had a fire in my belly. I said, holy shit, this guy knows who we are, and he knows we are sitting on a genius, original gold mine. Dudes talking about hip-hop. Gary, your weird takes on things, your quirky interactions with us need to be weirder and more quirky. Dion, you know how you obsessively research these facts? You know how you put all this time into this show? Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great, man. I couldn't ask you to do any more. I will crush this show. I will put more energy and more devotion into this show than this world has ever seen, and we will crush that big record executive. We will be the biggest show in the world. Mark my words. Fuck that guy. Welcome back to the R.I.P Show, the only show where two Jews and a Guyanese dude talk about hip-hop. And again, that was all 100% 100% true. The world will know our names, guys.
Benny, thank you for telling that story.
Yeah.
It was true.
Look, this guy could hire, Simon Perez and Ben Gurion, and the president of Guyana, Ifran Ali, okay? And they could have a radio show, but it's not going to be like this.
Fuck that shit. We're going to be the biggest show in the world. I'm telling you.
I'm into it.
If we're the biggest show in the world, there are some problems out there in the world. But here's hoping.
Thanks for following along with me, listeners. Again, 100% true. Welcome back, guys. This week's pick was a good-ass motherfucking pick, if you ask me. Dion crushed it. Dion picked Food by MF Doom. Possibly my favorite album by my absolute favorite MC ever. We already did a show on the artist, but under a different moniker. Our first ever episode that we published was his Viktor Vaughn album, Venomous Villain, or was it Vaudeville Villain? Vaudeville Villain.
Venomous is a sophomore.
Yeah. And this album, it's like embedded in our fucking friendship DNA. Like, when I think of this album, I think about a moment in time of us like hanging out.
Ben, you know why, what the proof is that this album is embedded in our DNA is because we had an idea for a food concept rap album when we were in, was it junior high? Well before this album was even thought of by MF Doom. So we were tied to this album before the album was even conceived by the original artist. That's how 100%. That's how ingrained in this album we are.
We as a unit have an old friend who we haven't seen in a really long time. But when we were in junior high school, we had a friend named Rashid who he was like a genius, like in a funny, in terms of humor, and he would write parody songs in the vein of Weird Al Yankovic, but they were to hip hop, songs of our time, which was the late 90s. And they were all food related. Like, each one of them was about food. And like, who would have thought that food is so funny? But I mean, he made I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy about Biggie Smalls. He made I'll Be Eating You. And it is, to this day, in my head, the lyrics to that song. I think Gary probably knows it by heart too. And so when we discovered,
you remember the name of the album, right?
When Buffet Strikes.
Hell yeah.
Right. And to take on When Disaster Strikes.
Yep, exactly. Because it had just come out. When Disaster Strikes had just come out at that time. We were like, oh, what do we name this shit? Oh, When Buffet Strikes. It seemed genius at the time. It was genius. Not at the time. It still is. It
was genius. Yeah, we're going to talk about just how genius that was as a concept.
Yeah. Well, when we reconnected recently with this guy, and he had no recollection of it. This guy is like, what? We all were like, at least me, I was like, dude, you wrote a whole album about food, and we loved it. And he's like, yeah, you're gonna have to jog my memory, man. I don't really. I'm like, fuck, we talked about it every day for the past 25 years. At any rate, we discovered this album soon after it came out in the mid 2000s, and it's Doom's. I wouldn't call it a concept album. It's a themed album.
It's a themed album.
Similarly to how Pink Floyd has done this, other artists have done this. Like Pink Floyd released an album called Animals, and each song is the name of an animal. And it's about a personality type: dogs, pigs, sheep. You know what I mean? Based on Animal Farm, the book by the author
George Orwell.
Yeah, there you go. But Doom decided to write songs with food themes, and none of them are about the food per se, but it's a very food themed album, and a lot of food metaphors, and a lot of food lines, and a lot of food titles. And we'll get into it, but Dion, I gotta ask, what motivated you to pick this one? Even though I know it was on our docket, right? Like, this
is one of the first albums I put in my suggestions.
Yeah, there's no way Exactly. There's no way we're gonna not talk about one of our collective favorite albums of all time. But what was it that brought you to pick it? And then I want you to start the show off with your takes on it, what you love, and we'll vibe from there.
Yeah. I mean, my motivation, again, aside from just it being one of my favorites, and we're like you just said, we're always going to do it. It's just funny. The last 3 episodes we've done, I feel like each of us picked an album that sort of meant something to us as an individual, but didn't necessarily get the full love from the other 2 hosts of the show. Not that I think we're all in agreement that we the last 3 albums we did, we all at least have a respect, and we at least enjoy the albums, but maybe it wasn't all of our collective favorites. So I wanted to sort of ground us and bring us back to an album that I knew that all of us we just had a base of love for this album. So I just felt like it was almost like a not like a reset, but more of like all right, we branched out, we ventured out, let's bring it back together as a family and just geek on this shit that I know that we're all gonna geek out about. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that leads me right into it. Yeah, one of my favorite albums. I know it's not a concept album per se, but there are some of the songs are a little bit more in tune with the title. For example, Guinness's is literally about it's about a man and a woman's relationship and literally possibly turning to alcohol as a way to cope. It's a little dark, but it has its place on the album. But for the most part. I don't know. I whenever I think of this album, whenever I hear this album, I just joy comes over my brain just because this is some of the best rapping I've ever heard. Forget about the gimmicky nature of the food album. Forget about the skits that are hilarious in their own right and Doom sampling old Spider-Man, Marvel, Fantastic Four cartoons. All that is great too. But really, when it comes down to it, and what makes this album one of the greatest, it's simple. It's the lyricism and the beats. Yeah. It's MF Doom and Metal Fingers. They're the same person coming together to make just a masterpiece of an album. So to answer your question, that is all of that is why I picked this album. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it right there, D. Had it not been for his remarkable pen game and delivery, the album wouldn't be remembered the way it is, even though all the other shit is genius and makes it,
of course,
greater. Had he not spit some of the most wicked bars I've ever heard, we wouldn't be talking about the album, Gary.
Well, dude, it's on that point, right? So I thought this album. I mean, the way I would summarize it is this shit is fucking delightful. Is my overall kind of thinking about this album. It was very not boring. I mean, besides all of those things that we just mentioned, and I think what I mean by that is besides the amazing lyricism and the beats that could make any hip hop album a really great hip hop album, right? And defines a great musician in some ways. There's an asterisk here, right? And this is the asterisk is the fucking spice of life. Right, it's the really, really random stuff that and the clips that are in here. It's the amount of just totally bizarre research that went into making a compilation of those clips and making an album along this theme that made it really, really special and delightful to listen to.
100%. And to the uninitiated, if you're listening to us, maybe you know us and you're giving us a listen. Maybe you like another album that we spoke about previously, but you haven't heard this one. I think we all are in agreement that this show is best served after you hear the album at least once. And B, Doom is this really complex character that needs unpacking, Can you enjoy him right away? Yes. I think it's music for weirdos like us, and I think there's plenty of you out there. I'm not entirely sure that someone who just knows the rap that's been on the radio for the past few decades or what's been popular can just hop into a Doom album and be at home. I'd be pleasantly surprised if that was the case.
Maybe it's not like that far fetched that like I wouldn't be surprised either way. I think that's to your point, Ben. I think you're right. Like it's I can see it being too weird for people, but I could also see it like, you know, he's again, like it all comes back to the skill. Like you can't deny the skill that he has. I don't care what generation you come from, you at least got to respect that. Not you, just saying like this new generation. 100%. But I do agree. Like I could easily see like, you know, a millennial who only knows like, you know, Lil Pump listening to this, like what is this shit? Like, what's your shit, man? What's your shit?
I can even... Yo, but some of this stuff is easier to get into than other stuff, right? Like, I think something that's come up for us on, you know, when we're discussing other albums was the presence of humor as a way to get some people into the music. I think, like, I'll point to myself. Like, humor is something that'll get me into something that I've never heard before. It might be different from what I heard before, and will get me to listen to it and kind of really sink my teeth in. This is one of those albums, right? Like some albums, I don't know, maybe let's put a metaphor on it. If there's buried treasure, you know, and you're digging for buried treasure, you have a map. Sometimes it's fucking hard to get to it, right? You need a pickaxe, you need like all this stuff, like your arms will get worn out. I don't know, somebody falls in and dies. Finally, you get to some treasure. Like, great, was it worth it? All right, here it's like just like topsoil. Right? You got to plow just easily, and below there just gold. You just go for it. You know, just home before supper. It's so easy to like this album.
The treasure is just sprinkled across the land for you to pick up at you. Yeah, I got you on that one. But you brought up a good point, Gary. I wasn't going to go there right away, but let's go there. The humor, right? Humor. We said this in an episode that we never published. We were earlier on when we were figuring things out. We spoke about Dion, one of our favorite MCs. He uses humor a lot too, and humor disarms the listener, right? Humor will take the guy who's going, I don't know about this style, or this really isn't my vibe. But if you could get the guy to laugh, or the girl, or whoever's listening, if you could get the listener to laugh, you got them. They're engaged, right? They want to hear what's next. They want to laugh again, and then in that, right, they might pay attention to some really weird shit that they wouldn't normally be on board with. So yeah, it's an excellent point.
Interesting. That makes sense.
Doom has such a perfect his humor is it's like, not, I wouldn't call it dry humor, but it's like he's not gonna like, it's not gonna be like, hey, listen to this joke, guys, you know. It's not like here comes the funny. It's just like a skit about a guy who's wants to help his neighbors, and in return they'll get crack. But like you're just like, what? Like, what the fuck? Or like sampling a movie that was not intended to be funny.
Yeah.
But like, it's terrible acting, and in that are some gold comedy lines that were just never meant to be comedy. You know what I mean? Like, he has such an interesting take on things. So yeah, I think that's a good place to get into. Gary mentioned it as well. These sample tapestries he does. He'll
and he starts the album with it too. Like, he hits you like literally the first thing you hear, the first like minute and a half of this album are just a compilation of samples from different like Marvel cartoons and songs. First of all, like, you know, knowing this album, I knew that, like, you know, again, the first like minute and a half or whatever of Beef Rap, the first track, I knew it was sample heavy, but until I actually started like researching, I didn't realize how many samples. Like, it probably takes from like 15 different sources, including Ben. You probably realize this, that "Would You Like a Snack?" That's from a Frank Zappa song. Do you know that?
I did not.
That's from the song "Would You Like a Snack" by Frank Zappa. That line from Beef Rap in the beginning where he goes, "Would you like a snack?" That's Frank Zappa, and that's the only thing they took from that song for that sample. Later on, this is the genius of this album too, guys. I forget what song it is. I have it in my notes. So I'll bring it up later. Or maybe I bring it up now. There's a song later on that actually samples a musical sample from that same song, "Would You Like a Snack" by Frank Zappa. Wow. So by putting in that like audio, like that vocal sample in like the first skit of the album, it almost like, you know, it intros you. It's like, hey, like, this is a sneak peek of what's to come later on in the album. And I guess that's kind of what all those samples kind of do, right? Like, it's all like kind of a like, it puts together like all the not the themes necessarily, but like they keep coming back to a lot of those characters that are mentioned in the samples. Again,
he pulled together a narrative. right?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
From all these different sources, you can follow some kind of narrative in his samples throughout the album.
Yo, it's so interesting that the samples, even for like sample pros, I would say Dion is like as close as it comes. I don't know if there's such a thing, but like somebody who could pluck samples, like, oh, I know where this is coming from out of the air. These samples, the sourcing is so random in terms of like genres and time periods, everything,
and media.
right? And he brings them together in such a way that it's not obvious where those sources are coming from. So it's like, it's a very interesting puzzle in itself, just kind of getting to know where the heck the sources are from. There's a song, Cookies, that samples from a Sesame Street outro.
Sesame Street.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like a gangster ass beat.
It's a gangsta ass beat. That's a Sesame Street original sample. So that is actually one of the few songs that like literally it's called Cookies, and he's talking about cookies. It's like it does the same.
I think it's also it's a metaphor for like women and
you're right. But what I mean, Ben, so I guess I mean this in the way that Jizza did labels. Where it's like it's exactly like that. Where it's like the song isn't about necessarily the labels, but like he keeps using the names of the labels in like it's splicing them into like to the different verses, different lines. That's what Doom does in Cookies, where he takes different brand names of cookies and puts them in. You're right. It's metaphorical for for something else, but like he still brings back like those actual name brand cookies and like cleverly sticks them in. Like he mentions like probably 30 different brands, right?
Yeah, it was one of those exercises in like I'm gonna do like a word.
It labels.
Song.
That's exactly what it reminds me.
Yep,
of.
Like labels or Animal Planet. Like people have done it in the past. Edon has a song called Rock and Roll where like the whole verse is different rock and roll bands. But yeah, 100%.
By the way, before I go on, just to circle things back, it's Gumbo. The musical track, the musical sample of Gumbo is "Would You Like a Snack" by Frank Zappa.
Really?
Yep.
That's so cool.
Or at least part of it. At least part of it.
I'm a huge Zappa fan, but his catalog is like he actually released something like 45 albums in his lifetime. So like I haven't heard all of it. So like I gotta.
Wait, there's a song called "Would You Like a Snack" by Frank Zappa.
Would you like a snack? Yeah.
Amazing.
Because of course.
Yeah, that's like the farthest thing from his strangest out. He has a song. He has an instrumental song called. we might delete that.
Or we may beep it. That's funny.
Right.
It wasn't yours, man. It was Frank Zappa.
Yeah. So these tapestries, right? Like that's the way I would call it, right? Like so it's not right. So like a lot of people have sampled some of the things he's sampling in the talking, right? So like in particular in the beginning, right? He sampled the movie on Doomsday as well on his first album, but he's sampling this classic movie in that it's the first movie to really show the hip hop culture on for the masses to see outside of New York. It's called Wild Style.
Wild Style, bro.
And I mean, I'll be honest. I'm a hip hop head. I've never watched the whole thing. It's a tough watch. It's like there's cool vibes, but the acting is horrendous. But again, you get comedy gold. I've been eating all day, man.
And then to your point, if you watch the movie,
up a little bit.
If you watch the movie, that's not meant to be. You're right. That's not meant to be one of the funny bits. It's. But here we are.
Yeah, don't wait for her, man. Don't wait for her. I'll go get you a snack.
I've been eating all day, man. Just want to munch up a little bit.
It's so strange, right? And so his humor. He cultivates strangeness, right? In another skit, like one thing that this album has is extended instrumental / verbal sampling segments where there's no music, there's no rapping, there's no songs.
There's an entire suite in the middle of this album with 4 tracks of just samples.
Yeah, but like in a really interesting way,
Yeah.
Right. So like he samples The Electric Company, a 70s television program. I had it kind of ruined it for me a little bit. Right. So like,
same. Because I didn't know where it came from until this.
I'm talking about that sweet, it's like Filet-O-Wrapper.
It's Filet-O,
bicarbonated fig leaf.
Gumbo.
And, exactly.
Gumbo.
Poo-poo platter, Filet-O-Wrapper, gumbo, fig leaf, bicarbonate.
Yeah. Right, and in that he's sampling the Electric Company skit that's parodying something else, some nature program.
That is a real
the
thing.
70s.
Some real mountain man. Yeah.
Yo, this guy, I got deep on this guy. This guy.
Yeah, Gary, I actually want to talk to you about this because this guy seemed like I'm not shocked at all that you went deep on this. Like, can we branch off to that for a second? I know. It's
talk about the tree wizard.
So the tree wizard is in the skit within Gumbo. And maybe elsewhere, right? But it's a parody of Yul Theophilus Gibbons, right?
Sure,
this guy who was like an outdoor, like early advocate of like healthy outdoor food and like essentially stuff that you could find in the environment that you could eat and it'll make you healthy, it'll make you strong. And he was promoting eating wild foods, especially during the 60s. Which is cool, right? And maybe this guy was onto something that other people were not onto, and this was around, the Green Revolution, etc. Like all this stuff was happening in the background. The problem is this guy, Mr. Gibbons, he only lived to be 64 years old, which is not that old, which is like kind of throws his teachings into a bit of perspective that maybe
like
you
Atkins.
shouldn't be walking around the forest picking wild berries and mushrooms and shit right outside of civilization. But the entire skit.
You're saying he passed away at 64?
Yeah, which is like it's not young, it's not old, but you would expect of somebody who's like an outdoor enthusiast and like promoter of healthy foods, you hope this guy would live to like 112, so justifies listening to his advice. I
got shit in my refrigerator older than him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean, look,
going.
just like that's the I think the main. I think that's a good example of how just how strange of a sample this is. It's not looking at it's a parody that he's sampling. In other cases, he's sampling the actual primary source material. It's just like. Right. He thought this was funny. It made sense with the theme that he had, and he threw it in. And
it works.
But it works on multiple levels.
I'm gonna whip up a substantial meal. Like,
we still, Gary. How about me and you, Gary? Like to this day, like how often do me and you just like privately amongst each other just like reference that like and laugh? Like every time I feel like Gary, every time like me and you like break bread, like that's the line that we say to each other. Like I'm gonna whip up a really substantial meal.
My favorite
so
line.
All this stuff.
My favorite line is he just goes, "Been tripping a lot out here in the woods lately."
It's like what?
Right, and it was on topic. So like it was
on
a couple of times before digging in really deep, I was thinking these were made for the purpose of the album. They're so perfect. How could they not be? And they're so ridiculous and like silly.
That's what I
like,
thought too.
How could this exist outside of the four walls of this album? But just like everything else, it's being pulled from exactly the right place and it's being put to exactly the right use.
And it's funny too because like I know it's like there is an underlying theme of this album, like a sort of secondary or even tertiary theme to this. Of like, as funny as it is, like there's some sort of health awareness lines and themes sprinkled throughout this album. That obviously, like in that suite, again, like not only is this guy like he is trying to promote healthy living in his own way, and then there's that skit. I forget where it's from. But it's the lady it's like the female voice just talking about healthy living and like what could happen if you eat wrong.
Edible rappers.
Yes, edible rappers, exactly. And then but if you even go back to the first album, the first song on this. He does. There are some parts where he talks about health awareness. He's like, I suggest you change the diet. It can lead to high blood pressure if you fry it, or even a stroke, heart attack, heart disease. Like he starts off by saying, "Yo, guys, not only is this album like a funny kind of food album, but I'm also telling you, yo, eat better because otherwise you're gonna end up like what's this guy's name? This electric company guy that they're making fun of. You're gonna end up like him. And in a twisted way, I'm gonna give you his advice in his words, and even his ass ended up dead. So hey, eat better, motherfuckers."
Dion, you brought us to beef rap. Can we talk about beef rap?
Yeah, it's the first line.
100%. The first song, right? So I think there's a few tracks on here worthy of our time dissecting, right?
Yeah.
So this is gonna be a tough one to say. That my one critique of this album, and I only have one, okay, is that beef rap, that the intro to beef rap is not just called intro, and this happens on other albums, other artists as well, and that beef rap doesn't start when he says beef rap.
Beef rap.
And the song starts after like a minute and 45 second or more audio tapestry sample story setup intro.
And it's great. It's great.
And it's great, and I love it. But sometimes, every once in a while, I just want to hear him say beef rap, and I don't want to hear that part. And I would have skipped that intro just to hear the song, and that's not a possibility. I have to literally drag and skip through until I get to that. Or just listen, which is fine. I'll laugh, I'll listen, and it just kind of it gets you in the mood.
I just want to hear the music.
The intro definitely establishes, the world we're about to live in for the next hour plus. But that's my one critique. Now, that being said, a song called Beef Rap, right? One of the clear interpretations of that, right? So, yes, I suggest you change your diet. It could lead to high blood pressure if you fry it, or a stroke, heart attack, heart disease. Ain't no starting back once arteries start to squeeze. That's definitely about your diet. Right,
but
eating red meat and fried red meat in particular will be very unhealthy for you. But it's also talking about beef in rap, and that's gonna, historically we've seen beef kills MCs if it goes too far, right? Yep. So such a genius fucking song. It literally is both, and he even starts to beef, or in a general way, he's talking about other rappers later in the song. You know what I mean? Yuck. Is they rappers are stripping males, out of work jerks since they shut down Chippendales. You know what I mean? He's talking about pop star rappers rapping with their shirts off you know what I mean? So he's almost giving a warning and then still being the villain, but it's a pretty deep song after you take away the food references.
Well, that reference and that metaphor with I don't know. I mean, is it even a metaphor? The thing with beef, right? It goes back into the skits area, right? With how Gumbo jumps into bicarbonate of fig leaf, and first of all, super random, super random. And then, as Dion mentioned, there's this woman's voice coming from, I don't know where it's sampled from. Super weird. Also talking about how
it's a news report.
Edible wrappers, and somebody describing these edible things that you could wrap your food in, and then just using all this terminology that also applies to hip hop. It's very much obvious.
The sentence, Gary. There's a sentence that so many MCs have said is "I eat MCs," right? That's
and Tyson.
right. Mike Tyson said it on a cannabis.
Eat MCs.
But that's a sentence. I eat MCs, meaning I am ferocious. I'll fucking, battle you and whatever. But that is a standard hip hop sentence. And he found some fucking news report talking about edible rappers. Probably took him a lot of time to he probably just was let me just fucking search the cosmos for these weird things that nobody would ever think to put on a rap album, and things probably jumped out at him. He's got that sense of creative mind.
To avoid confusion, when the original source is pretty clear. When the source is saying edible rappers, they mean rappers as in a sandwich rap, just for context for the audience. I don't think
it's an environmental to avoid a landfill situation. The thing you wrap your food in can also be consumed.
That's right, and you could cook your beef in it, which is amazing. Watching beef
cooking beef and edible rappers, yo.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
Cook your beef and edible rappers.
It's really smart in that sense. I love that. Yeah.
So when we started talking about the song, I the first thing I brought up was that first line, right? So that first line is dope, but in my research of this, I kind of discovered something that blew my mind. I'm not sure if you guys even realize this, but so the first line goes, beef rap could lead to getting teeth cap or even a wreath from Mom Dukes on some grief crap, right? Mm-hmm. Dope fucking line. Dope line, right? I didn't realize, and maybe it's just my brain that didn't put two and two together, I didn't realize that was a direct reference to Give Me the Loot. And there's a reason why I didn't recognize it. Huh? In the Give Me the Loot line, right? He goes, don't let me fill my clip up in your back end headpiece, the opposite of peace, sending Mom Duke a reef.
Whoa.
So here's the other thing that blew my mind. I never knew that Biggie said send Mom Duke a reef. I thought he said sending Mom to Garif. Like, you know how rappers do that with like
wow.
To this, like, up until last week when I was doing my research, I always thought Biggie was saying sending mom to Garif, to Garif rather.
Dion, that's
I didn't realize he was saying exactly. He's actually saying sending Mom Duke a reef. So going back to Doom, he references that. So again, the line is beef rap could lead to getting teeth cap or even a wreath from Mom Dukes on some grief crap. Doom mentions grief. That's the weird thing, because I thought I heard grief. But Doom actually does say the word grief, and the whole thing, it blew my fucking mind. I don't know if if it was the same for you guys.
Does rhyme with beef. It does rhyme with beef. It's blowing my mind now. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's
Doom is really the gift that keeps on giving in that way, right?
Seriously.
So Gary, it's funny. You talk about how the treasures are out there for you to find, right? But the beauty of Doom is, yes, there are those surface level, like, you know, chuckles and like beats and like lyrics that jump out at you right away, but then when you do decide to go digging, right, if you are like me and have like a degree of obsessive compulsive listening and you do dig deep, then you get things that Dion just discovered, which I've heard this album, I can't even count how many times.
and Ready to Die.
And I've never put two and two together. I knew that Doom said all that, but I never made that Ready to Die connection. And like, my head is exploding now.
Because you didn't realize that's what Biggie was saying. If you knew that's what Biggie was saying, if you knew that Biggie actually said sending Mom Duke a wreath, you would have made that connection sooner, right. I'm sure. But like, it's also like, because that's the thing we talked about in other albums where rappers do this sometimes, the really good ones, they do that like sort of extra stretch and like make a word that's not meant to be two syllables into two syllables. Like we've seen that plenty of times from the tops. So I just always thought that's what Biggie was doing, sending Mom to Garif.
I thought it was one step dumber than that. I thought he was saying that he was sending moms to the reef, like meaning like he's gonna fucking put her under the water, you know, in the coral reef or something, right? I'm like, all right, fine, I like you anyway, Biggie. I still think you're smart, but like the reef thing, I don't really get. But now, so much better. Thank you for that.
This is why I love music and I love hip hop. Like the three of us took a song that we all love, "Give Me the Loot," and a specific line in it. The three of us had completely different interpretations of, or like we heard different things of what he said, and each are good in their own right. Yeah. Oh man,
not so much
I
mine.
love hip hop.
Yo, Benny,
no,
that
makes sense. Send him out to you know.
Yo, length of songs.
Throw the body off the. You know.
Go ahead, Gary.
Right, exactly, right. You know, hopefully, but there are no reefs by peers. You know, there's just garbage and bodies. That's it. Yo, the skits being included in the songs make the songs a pretty weird length, and I found that there were skits kind of in the middle of songs, kind of in places where you would expect the song to end and a new one to start, but nope, still the same song. And I think that's a choice. You know, the easy thing to do if you're trying to get, I mean, I would think if I want to make something that's compatible with being played on the radio or compatible with, you know, becoming popular in this way, without getting people to really have to, you know, dig the hole, right, and really get in there themselves, like, you could have formatted it differently, but I think it was a choice. Intentional. Right? The random lengths, not so radio friendly. Is this like a characteristic of underground music? I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
I mean, I don't know if it's not always, but Doom is the epitome of not commercial. And I think that anyone who does this intentionally is their statement without saying it out loud is, this is an album. Listen to my album. Don't listen to my song. There's not just one good song. This experience, a lot of thought was put into this experience from the first sample to the last sample. There is a continuity and there is a point to all of this, and it's meant to be consumed as an album. None, you know, there are songs that could go on a mix, but they'll probably have a weird skit at the end of them. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
this comes across as a passion project rather than, we got to make an album, rather than like, I got 4 good songs. Let's throw some other songs around it. We got an album.
But
rather than
I feel like that's how all Doom albums are, though. Yep. You're right. I fully agree with you, Gary. But I just feel like that's how all like Doom. I'm not saying other rappers don't take their craft seriously. Clearly, that's not what I'm saying. But Doom certainly takes his craft seriously, even with the silly shit like this. Like, it's silly, but the reason it's silly and the reason we're laughing about it, we're talking about it, is because serious thought went into it, and to like every little nook and cranny of this thing. Like, you kind of tell the dude's a perfectionist. If you watch interviews with him, like, it's pretty obvious that this dude is a perfectionist.
Yeah, and in that perfection, you find. I don't even know if perfectionist is the word. I would say he's obsessed. He's got an obsessive mind, and detail. He's got major attention to detail. Details are all over this shit. They're like little weird things. I just got really incredible speakers, like baller shit. They were actually made they're Bowers and Wilkins, made in the 90s. That's on top of my secret mission to meet the record executive that I told you about, I also went because Ian got me these speakers. He found them for like pretty cheap. They're sick. And I was just listening to Food on these best speakers I've ever owned in my life. And the sound separation that I got with these massive speakers, I heard details I never heard before. And clearly, right? Like, he's like, I'm going to put this little sprinkle of a high note in this one part of this song, and I'm never going to repeat it. Yeah, you went in and out. Well, yeah.
Yo, can we talk about the instrumental, the tracks on this, aside from separately from the rhymes? Like, the instrumentals are so good on here. The music is so good. I'm thinking of, for example, Con Carne, right? Like that jazzy piano mixed in with the crazy space sounds. That's the combination that gets me every time.
That's my favorite song on the album, Con Carne.
You know what the sample is, right? Why it's so smooth and why like it's a Sade song, bro.
I didn't know that.
Sade is smooth as shit, man. Sade's got it's a great voice.
That's the piano sample, right?
Is it a crime? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also her saying, "Is it a crime?" Like that female voice. That's Sade. The name of the song is "Is It a Crime?" So I think that's like that one female vocal sample you hear in Con Carne is Sade saying, "Is it a?" Is that? Oh, sorry, maybe that's what it is. But it's Sade singing. Yeah.
That song, interestingly enough, there's a few songs that on this album that were released before it came out, as like different singles before Food was a thing. Mm-hmm. Some of these songs, interestingly, were recorded years before he was officially recording Food, and his career is interesting that way. The first MF Doom album came out in 1999, Operation Doomsday, and he went through so many evolutions, with Viktor, Vaughn, King Ghidorah, and a lot of guest appearances and producing for other people. So like he's a completely different guy by the time you get to Food. Like he's a way more fleshed out character, and his vibe has been developed into like an expert level. But these songs were released, some of them, like Con Queso was released as Yeehaw.
Yeehaw,
and this was released, so a few of these songs were out in the world and maybe re-recorded for this album. But yeah, Gary, the beats, right? So he is a master producer. He's one of my favorite, not only is he my favorite MC ever, he's one of my favorite beat makers and producers ever because of the flips. The samples that he flips are always right. So some of his sample sources are similar to other people's, but he flips them in such a creative way, and then he'll find he sampled a Spider-Man cartoon. Beef Rap is part of the score to an episode of a Spider-Man cartoon.
Which, if you remember, going back to Viktor Vaughn, the Canon of Doom episode is what Viktor Vaughn, like more than half the tracks on Viktor Vaughn sampled from the Canon of Doom episode. And this album has a couple of those from that specific one. Actually, Con Queso, going back to that Spider-Man sample is from that episode. But yeah, I think Ben, you're right. Yeah, Beef Rap. Was it a Spider-Man or was it a Fantastic Four card? Or both? Maybe it's both.
No, so Canon of Doom is a Spider-Man episode.
No, that's Spider-Man. But I'm talking about the Beef Rap samples. Those are more Fantastic Four, right?
No, that episode. That's a Spider-Man episode. It's like this is like the 1960s or 70s. I don't really know, but like really like dark ages of
the Amazing Spider-Man,
of like the Saturday morning cartoon era, and like probably from his childhood. You know what I mean? I know that like these are all VHS recordings of old cartoons. He does sample Fantastic Four a lot too, but that's from a Spider-Man episode. It's crazy. It's absolutely genius, and guess what? It sounds like a fucking dope hip hop song, right? If you didn't know that was a Spider-Man score from the 60s, you'd just be like, wow, this beat fucking knocks. You know what I mean? It's genius.
Well, Nate, it's pretty awesome for the folks that made those made those cartoons and made those scores that they're being reused in this really innovative way.
I'm sure they're probably very pleased. But Nate, our producer, what's up, dude? He's actually with us today. He sent us like he randomly heard a song being played by one of his coworkers, and it was this sample for one of the illest songs in the album. One beer that I never heard it. It's such a I mean, maybe you guys heard of the artist. I didn't. What's the artist's name, D? You have it off the top of your head?
I don't have it off the top,
Nate,
but it's like
can you chime in?
All right. But he got it.
He got the mic.
We'll cut
all
that
right,
up.
one day we'll hear from Nate. But you know,
no, we're definitely keeping that in. That's great. It's Cortex. Huit Octobre 1971 by Cortex, which was released in 1975.
Okay. You know, Gary's face. Yeah, I mean that sample is so weird, right, Gary? Like, I don't know how many times you guys, or let's put it this way: when you listen to that song, I don't know if you think about the drums the way I do, but it's
the answer is no.
It's the only hip hop song, One Beer, that I've ever heard where the entire drum track is not a beat; it's a fill. It's literally like
yeah.
Right? There's it's not a 4/4 like boom, boom,
yeah. And by the way, you know who produced that track, right?
Who?
Madlib,
right?
It's Madlib. It's Madlib. It's one of the three. There's only 3 songs on this whole album that Metal Fingers doesn't produce. It's this by Madlib. Conqueso is PNS. I've not heard of, I don't think. And then Potholders is not only the guest rapper is Count Basie, but Count Basie also produces it. Every single other track on this album is produced by Metal Fingers, and also I guarantee Metal Fingers had I'm sure something to do with even those other 3 tracks. But
he got his hands on.
For those, by the way, for the audience listening, if you like One Beer and you like that collab of Madlib and MF Doom, you have to listen to Mad Villainy. That's another one of the greatest rap albums I've ever heard in my fucking life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
collab between Madlib and MF Doom. So
yeah, I think a lot of people consider that Doom's best work ever. It's one of my favorites by him.
Hard to
it's
argue.
Not my favorite.
It's hard to argue.
It's a masterpiece. Yeah,
I need to spend some time with that album. It was something that after listening to Food, I realized that there is an album of Metal Fingers tracks, just tracks on
Special Herbs.
Special Herbs.
Or no, there's more than 4. There's like 10, aren't there?
Yeah, there's like
Get
10
I thought there were only
installments
like 1 or 2. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's his library of beats, basically.
Dating all the way back to KMD, his first group when he was Zev Love X. Like, it's like basically his history told in instrumentals. It's really cool.
Wow.
He's an incredible artist, man. Just another random Doom appreciation from me. Like, this guy is just amazing, man.
Yeah, I'm finding it really hard to say anything that is like at all constructive. I think Doom just kind of happens to sit on a pedestal. I mean, with me, it looks like for all of us too. You know, even just listening to somebody rhyme next to MF Doom is like watching somebody trying to act next to Al Pacino. You know, it's like it breaks the fourth wall breaks down for me. It's like, you know,
there are some. Sorry, go ahead, Gary.
I mean, dude, it's just he kind of stands by himself in a way as a professional when he's rhyming because of all the things that we discussed, because of the character.
There's one track.
Lyrics.
there's one track on this that I actually think similar to if I forget what doc it was, but on Biggie's first album, the song "The What." Method Man is on that. It's the only featured artist on Biggie, and Biggie went on record to say it's like, yo, like, and we all know, we're all fans of Biggie. We know how cocky he was, but even he went on record and was like, yo, I think Method Man got me on my own track. And if you listen to it, as great as Method Man, as great as Biggie was, Method Man, I think, got him on that track. I think actually the same, Gary. I think I agree with you with every track in this album except for Rap Snitch Knishes. I think on that particular track, Mr. Fantastic, who I actually don't know that much more about. I haven't heard that much more of him, but I think his verse on that might be the one that was a little bit better than.
Hey, I first met Mr. Fantastic at an arms deal.
Incredible. Yeah.
Are we talking about Rap Snitch Knishes, right?
Yeah.
How cool is the theme
and actually
transitioning
to that. The what
of that song? How cool is the theme of that song? He's like
it's great. It's
poking holes in one of the tropes of hip hop, right? This whole thing of like, one of the things that happens often in hip hop is a man will say, I committed this particular crime on this particular evening selling this particular drug. And if you're telling the truth, like, it's only a matter of time, man. You're snitching on yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's like album, so funny.
This song, I think, like, one of the events that sort of sparked the creation of this song, I think, is, I'm not sure if you guys remember this, but in '93, Tupac was in, he was originally cast in the movie Menace to Society by the Hughes brothers. The Hughes brothers directed it. He had a disagreement with them, and he ended up getting fired from the movie, and then replaced, I'm assuming he was the character that Lorenz Tate played in it, but I'm not sure. But Tupac then famously went on UMTV Raps and fucking told on himself. Actually, here's a brief clip from it. Let me play it for you guys. Check this out.
Hit me with
I beat up the directors, the ministers of society. Let me tell the whole world.
All right, tell them why you did what you had to do.
These chump, punk, slump, you know what I'm saying?
Look, you'll have a chance to come here and rebuttal.
No, they won't. They better come now. Check this out. They fired me, but did it in a roundabout punk snitch way. So I caught them on the streets and beat they behind. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
I was a nigga to the Hughes brothers. And it ain't over. I still got more than chump because I read what you said about.
Don't jump to the TV.
Kick that
TV.
I'm gonna kick that TV.
Oh God. So that's real. So that's Ed Lover in the back. So Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, the other Dr. Dre used to host MTV Raps, and that's Ed Lover. Like they all have smiles on their face, but they like as soon as Tupac started saying that, they're all like, "Yo, chill." And just so you guys know, Tupac. So exactly, Tupac got arrested like an hour after this fucking interview aired because he just told on himself. He just went on national television like, "Yo, I committed assault on these two guys, and they are filing charges on me." And I just went on TV and just said, "Yeah, hey guys, I did it." Of course, he fucking got arrested. So that's the song "Rap Snitch Knishes." I think this is one of the many examples of something that's of what like sparked or I guess what motivated the inspiration of this song. It's funny. It's not funny, but it's funny. You know.
I think it also makes fun of the fact that I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as to say make fun, maybe, but the theme of violence in hip hop is something that just by making an album about food that's this good and this engaging and this funny, he kind of just shits all over this really ridiculous theme of violence, right? Like everybody's. Right. Like everybody who's doing that and doing it in a way that's not as, I would say, I don't know, perfect as what MF Doom puts out is kind of, kind of playing themselves when you compare it to an album like this that's about something like food and it's this good and this interesting, 100%. Right? Like I think a lot, it ends up being the default topic because it's an interesting topic, right? Violence, right? In a lot of hip hop. I think few musicians' lives are defined by violence, right? You'll find somebody who like Ice Cube, for example, who's an amazing musician, but he ran with a crew and he was like the artistic guy in the crew, right? He was the artsy friend. He wasn't the dude that was like guy, clapping fools.
People don't realize that about Ice Cube. They think he was just as much like that gangster life is the rest of him. Ice Cube went to a charter school and was like he was Ice Cube was a really fucking smart dude and an artistic guy and you're right. He was like the artistic backbone of that group.
Right. He's rapping about a very interesting theme. Right, and Doom is just choosing any theme, the most mundane theme, and making it hilarious and so interesting.
100%, man. And Gary, that's not to say, and I think we all know this, right? There are certain albums about the sale of crack and the murder of people that are genius works of art, right?
Sure.
I'm thinking like there are some Ghostface albums, you know what I mean, that are just masterful at telling these tales, some of them fiction, probably some of them rooted in reality, you know, about the sale, you know, about like what it's like to be a crack dealer in a state of desperation in a world I never knew. But like it's breathtaking to like listen to it and to be immersed in that world. So on that note, not on that note, actually, redirect, sorry. I think we need to revisit lyrics here. I think like it would be a disservice to the episode on MF Doom to, you know, to not like analyze and take a look at some of these bars, because
here we go.
Frankly, right, if Doom wasn't this incredible at rapping, right, if his rhyme schemes and lyrics weren't so remarkable, we wouldn't be here, right? We wouldn't be talking about this. Like that's the, there's a lot of things
I wouldn't be here, period.
Right.
I wouldn't have been born.
You wouldn't have been birthed. But there's a lot of things that bring us to MF Doom's music, and there's a lot of things to appreciate about MF Doom's production and like all of its genius, right? But if the bars weren't this remarkable, right, we just wouldn't be talking about it, right? So
yeah, it might just be another funny album, you know?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Hoe Cakes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is one of those. The title of the song is food related, but the whole song is kind of about like warning you how to act with women, maybe in a pretty sexist way, but also in some advice on how to mac, some advice on like his warnings of maybe experiences he's had with women. And there's one bar which I never understood until this time when I actually looked it up on Genius.
Let's hear it.
So, listen here, Scooter. Let her try to bag you. When she's on the rag, never let her fry the ragu, which'll have her under some type of spell trying dag boo, her name in the back on a tattoo, right? So, I was just like, okay, right? So, on the rag, period. Don't let her cook for you.
Which made me think of Gremlins, by the way.
So like basically all I took from this bar for the first 8 million times I heard it was like, don't let her cook for you when she's on her period because she'll have you hooked. I don't know why, but whatever. So I looked at the annotation on what do you call
Genius.
it, on Genius, which I'm trying to click the link to. I just think that it's like so crazy that he referenced this. So I'm pulling it up right now. Listen here, Scooter. Never try. Wow, where'd it go? Okay, here we go. So this is when she's on her period. Don't let her make you spaghetti with ragu sauce. She will put her menstrual blood in the sauce, which is a type of voodoo ritual that would make a man fall in love with a woman.
I know about that.
So in love with. You would be so in love that you'd get her name on your back as a tattoo. This could also be a reference to Rastafari practice where men refuse to eat food prepared by a woman who is on her period. Right? Like, that is a crazy reference and line and point to make in a song.
Yeah.
Period. End of sentence. Like, such, like... Oh, shit. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I guess we're talking. It's so hard to stick to just the lyrics when you're talking about. So like we're focusing on the lyrics. Good. We're talking. We've talked about the amazing introductions and the beats in other parts of this episode. But oh my God, I love. That's probably one of my favorite songs on the album that got me hooked on MF Doom's music. The beatbox at the beginning of Hoe Cakes.
Can I talk about that for a second, actually? Because I know even before doing this deep dive, that was actually one of the sort of hidden things that I knew about before. Not hidden, but like otherwise unknown. So do you guys know where that sample's from?
No.
So that is a song called Supersonic, right? By JJ Fad. JJ Fad was an all-female. Yeah. JJ Fad was an all-female group from LA in the 80s. Now, it's funny that we were just talking about Ice Cube because there's a connection there. JJ Fad was actually the first group that released an album under Ruthless Records. Ruthless Records, it was Eazy-E's record label that founded NWA, right? But people naturally think that, of course, NWA is going to be the first artist that releases for Ruthless. No. It was actually JJ Fad. An all-female group. So that song, Supersonic, it's a very famous song in hip-hop. It's been sampled many times over. Famously sampled by Eminem, a vocal sample in Rap Gods, where he goes into that Sumalama Dimalama, like that shit. That's all directly lifted from JJ Fad. Like these chicks were doing this stuff 35 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
early
rapping
fast.
And I'm telling you guys, like, give it a listen. JJ Fad is fucking dope. JJ Fad was fucking dope. That shit needs to go
on the list.
Actually, guys, that's a good point. That's a good point. We should probably put that on. But yeah. So that's what it is. So her going super. That's from that beatboxing is actually one of the members of the group beatboxing. That's like part of the beat for Supersonic. Doom just put it in the beginning here, and then he just switches gears, and most of the musical sample of the song is from an Anita Baker song, who was like an 80s R&B singer who's great. I love Anita Baker, but like it's so funny that like she mostly raps about like soft love, and this song it's a Doom song called Hoe Cakes. The whole thing is funny. Yeah, like it's just it starts off you think it's going one way, the beatboxing, and then it just switches and like okay now we're here, but yeah, no, it's I have nothing more to say about the beat. That was just like an interesting like sort of, especially when you mentioned Ice Cube, like that, I just make that connection.
They're using Supa, right? And Supa is a recurring theme through this whole thing. I mean, do you guys know what it means? You call the Supa when you need your back or plumbing fixed, right? But like,
I never even put that together.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the Hoe Cakes is about it's about being a pimp, right? It's about pimping, and I think, in my opinion, or at least my read of it, is that it's a song about being a professional pimp with multiple people, right, women working for you in that capacity. And that's why he's the Supa.
It's about that and like pimp culture, and it's also just about how he's a Mac, but like also in a weird way, right? So here's another line that like it's like he's talking about how he's ugly, but he still gets girls, right? So here we go. Like one thing he does regularly in his songs is he'll like part of his process is he'll like say something and then completely kind of change the subject, be in that world, but just new thought mid verse, which I love, right? So he got something together and then he changes the theme a little and he goes, look like a black Wookiee when he let his beard grow, weirdo, brown skinned, always kept his hair low. Rumor has it's an S-curl accident. Doom always known to keep the best girls' backs bent, right? So he's saying, I'm ugly. That line. Always like, I look weird. I'm not the greatest looking guy, but Doom always known to keep the best girls' backs bent. Some say it's the eyes. Some say the accent. A lot of guys wonder where their stacks went. Like, yo, the way he puts words together, right? We talked about this in the Viktor Vaughn episode. We talked about it in the Czarface episode when he had the feature on the Czarface. Doom's ability to get a point across, right? But like make you do 3 different left turns to get to that point while you're listening. It's just incredible, right? He'll say something like, I am ugly, but I get girls, right? Like,
which is a theme that is like Biggie makes that. Biggie, actually,
I was just about to say heartthrob never, black and ugly as ever. However, I say coochie down to the socks.
Also,
love that.
Also, they both have a song that's about how they get with a woman who is dating a basketball star, and then they rob the house. They both have a song about that, right? When he's heading out to All-Star Weekend to ball, I'm coming with the U-Haul, right? Again,
when I heard that line, Gary, I automatically thought of an animation. I thought like, yo, how is no one? I guess someone had, because Doom has like a deal, I guess, with Adult Swim. He does shit with them, but like Doom needs his own animated series. Can't you easily picture like a dude leaving his house and like a crudely animated Doom with the mask hiding behind a bush with the U-Haul, like waiting for the like I don't know, that line just kind of sparked that for me. That's fucking funny, man. By the way, that Biggie song that you're talking about, I got a story to tell. The rumor is that it was the legendary Nick Anthony Mason, rest in peace.
Wait, that happened?
No, Gary, that's a true story. No. It's a true story. It's like one of those like in the hip hop world. It's like that shit actually fucking happened in a rumor. Fat Joe actually, I think, accidentally revealed like 5 years ago that it seems to be Anthony Mason that it was about. But I
think that is just like one of the gems of wisdom in human fucking knowledge that men pass along to one another. I think it was Alex's dad that first told me when I was like in like maybe I had to be in like 9th grade or something. He says, men don't have to be pretty. Men have other charms, right? And it's the same thing that Biggie was saying in his way, and that MF Doom said in this album, right? Just like it's about being you're an attractive human being if you're confident in yourself, right? Is essentially the message there. Well,
and this is a very sexist.
Like they're saying if you're a man, but I mean, it's really it's a truism across the board.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd say I'd say this theme that men can be. So like, I think it bears repeating what Alex's dad said, which is like you could be just one level under a gorilla.
That's right. You just have to be a little bit more handsome than a gorilla.
And like you'll be all right. Like we're just like it's an extremely sexist thing to think about, right? Like men don't need to really present themselves. And I'm sure to your point, Gary, like
society.
Right. It's just funny, right? We could still talk about it. We don't necessarily agree with it, but we could still talk about it.
I thought it was a very confidence building thing to hear as a kid. As a young man growing up to be, who knows whether you're going to grow up to be a handsome prince or a frog, it doesn't matter. But as long as you are confident in yourself, right? That's exactly what every young person needs to hear.
There's actually a line in Beef Rap that not only covers that, but also like I think these lines perfectly like encompass who Doom is throughout his entire career. He goes, he wears a mask just to cover the raw flesh, a rather ugly brother with flows that's gorgeous. Drop dead joints hit whips like bird shit. They need it like a hole in the head or a third tit. That's smell. Like, but that goes back to the whole self-deprecating thing. It's like, a rather ugly brother with flows that's gorgeous. So it's like, don't matter what I look like here. Like my flows are gonna knock you out. Like my fucking rap is gonna overtake all that shit. You're gonna forget how ugly I am. But I'm still gonna wear this mask. But like, fuck that shit. I could rhyme you under the fucking table.
I love breaking down his bars, dude. There's a video, Dion, if you could cue it up. I discovered this because I've shared this before. When I find something I love, I obsessively research it. Right? I need to see every interview with the man. I need to know. I'm gonna Wikipedia. I'm gonna read the whole article. I'm gonna do all this deep dive on Doom because I'm obsessed with him. He's like an artist that just encompasses everything I love about music and weirdness. And like, I just feel like he was put on this earth for people like me to feel okay and be like, wow, someone made an album about food and it's fucking weird as hell. And I feel okay now that like someone else. So like, there's a video that I came across of Mos Def. He went by Mos Def back then. He now goes by Yasin Bey. One of the greatest MCs ever, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
A few of his albums are on my
Brooklyn
list
in the house.
that we're gonna cover one day. When it's right around when Food came out, and it's just one of his boys filming him spitting Doom's bars and going like, "Yo, did you
geeking
the fuck out on MF
like,
Doom?"
I've never seen Mos Def like this before. Mos Def is usually this is not his personality.
No.
He's usually much more chill, much more laid back, like don't give a fuck attitude. But I've never seen him react to another artist like I have in this video. It's really fun to watch.
And so we're gonna listen in, and maybe you could do a few parts with it where he's like kind of geeking out on the bars, and then he says a statement which literally puts everything I just said into a nutshell. So let's listen to a little bit of that.
Yo, that Rap Snitches shit on the Doom album, that's easily one of the greatest shits ever. Rap Snitches, tell them all their business. taking the cup. They be their own star witness. Do you see the perpetrator? Yeah, I'm right here. Oh, that shit was hilarious. I was like, oh my God. This song needs to be out now. Needs to be a hit. Just say like, oh my God. How you gonna sell crack and talk about it? Right. That's the point of selling crack. It's supposed to be a secret.
So that's why. Let me just skip around.
The whole video, he's just going through a lot of the bars on this album and just be like, yo, that's how I feel when I listen to Doom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, check it out.
Oh, what up? The old rappers, shut up, and while you shutting up, put a shirt on, at least a button up. Yuck. As they rappers are stripping males out of work jerks since they shut down shipping downs.
So yeah. And then, so Ben, I think what you were alluding to later on that video, nice Nate.
Let's listen.
Is basically Mos Def says something that perfectly describes how, like, you know, let's just hear.
Let's hear it.
A challenge for you.
Who? To write with Doom? Actually, it would be fun because he rhymes as weird as I feel. I don't know if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I swear to God, when I saw that Mad Villain record, I bought it on vinyl. I didn't even have a record player. I bought it on vinyl just to stare at the album, and I stared at it, and I just kept going. I understand it. I was like, I understand.
It's yeah. Like
we all have that experience that he's having right now.
Yes, and it's so cool. It's so cool to see one of the greatest, most highly regarded MCs ever, right? Talk about Doom in the way I talk about Doom, right?
Yeah.
Like an excited little kid.
Yeah.
Excited little kid, exactly. And again, like it's like it would be strange for any of our rap heroes to see them like that, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Right.
But especially Mos. Yeah. Because again, that's not his personality. Like, he's not like a geeking out type of dude. He's a funny guy, as we've seen. Like, he was, if you guys remember, he was basically a cast member of Chappelle's Show, which by the way is coming to Netflix. Not new episodes, the old ones, but coming to Netflix soon. So yeah, he's got personality. I'm not saying he doesn't have personality. He has plenty of it. But like, again, like, he's not the type of dude he's not that dude that geeks out like that. So like, it just goes to show like how impactful. Like, I mean, Doom is one of those rappers similar to Royce, where it's like, you know, your favorite rappers, yeah, your friends who are just generic hip hop fans probably either have never heard of them or don't know much about them. But I guarantee your favorite rappers not only have heard of them, but they are their favorite rappers. Yeah, like Doom is definitely in that category. Royce is in that category. Yeah. Like you know, there's a few other under like people like Pharoah Monch. Like we can go through those of people who aren't so commercial but are like highly respected by everyone else. But you know, Doom is definitely in that. I mean, Doom is in a lot of people's top 5 lists. I mean, he's on mine. I know that. Ben, he's on your top 5, right?
He's my favorite rapper ever. I mean, he's greatest of all time. He's number 2 for me, under Royce, just because of his accomplishments and like his science. He's like equal parts scientific flow professor, comedian, abstract poet. You know, language use, metaphors. He's everything. He's the total package, man. He's my favorite rapper.
One more line from or line set from Beef Rap. This here is an example. This is a clinic of how Doom takes his unique rhyme schemes and sort of, like, I don't want to say multiply, but he has different rhyme schemes and he has different ways of sort of putting pen to paper and putting lyric to music. So the lines, he goes, "For a mill, do a commercial for Mellow Yellow. Tell them devils hell no, sell your own jello. We hollow krills, she swallow pills. He follow flea collar $3 bills." Like, that shit. So first of all, the Mellow Yellow thing, like what he does, this is the thing that Doom does. And again, it's a very specific thing. He takes the line, like the line is supposed to end, right? It's supposed to end, but he squeezes out that little extra word. Like, for example, like, if let's say that, forget about the meaning for this line, right? Let's say the line was just, "For a mill, do a commercial for Mellow," right? Like I'm just saying, just like that inflection, like that's really what it's supposed to be. For a mill, do a commercial for Mellow. tell them devils, hell no, sell you. Like that's how it's supposed to be. But what he does, he adds that extra thing where he goes, for a mill, do a commercial for Mellow Yellow, right? It's like the extra, it's like the and but, or the yes but, or the yes and, I guess. Like it's kind of an improv thing, right? So do it for a mill, do a commercial for Mellow Yellow. Tell them devils, hell no, sell your own jello, right? And he does it a few times on his album. Again, this is a very specific thing. Half our audience probably are going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not hearing that. But like it's like one of the things that I love about his rap. Like it's just fun to listen to, and it's also, it makes it fun to rap along with. That's the thing too, right?
You know, it feels like somebody hitting a strike when they're bowling. Listening to Doom go through a couple of bars.
He nails
it's just
it.
Like fucking nailed it.
Yeah, you nailed that.
That was great. That feeling, right? That feeling of knocking all 10 pins down. Right?
Yes,
The execution. And I would say this is the part of Doom's evolution where he reached his full form of execution, right? If you listen to Operation Doomsday, which is a great album, we'll probably cover it one day, God willing. I'd say any project besides maybe the JJ Doom album, I'm probably it's in the world of possibilities that we're going to talk about. But he reached a point after, so Operation Doomsday, he I wouldn't call it sloppy. Sloppy's too harsh of a word, but he was a bit more all over the place, right? His syllables weren't necessarily landing in these beautiful awkward pockets, right? He found the pocket by this point, right? His rhythmic placing, while it might be after the fourth beat in a 4/4 thing, it's placed in a rhythmic way that it still lends itself to the presentation. It's not throwing you off, right? So it's both parts complex, jazzy in that, like, you know, jazz introduced the world to like maybe not being so on the dime, right? Funk definitely did that too. Funk, everything is before or after. You know, everything's just switched out a little bit, so it kind of has that thing that makes you want to dance, you know? And Doom has a very funky, jazzy approach to his phrasing, but it's so rhythmically sound that you're not even sure why it's weird. It's just weird, but it sounds great. I remember hearing this is a true story. I didn't get into Doom when this album came out. I got into him maybe 2 years later, is when I really discovered his shit. The first song I ever heard him ever was the Gorillaz' second album. He was on a song called November Has Come. And I remember
that's a great song. Great song.
One of his best examples of Doomism ever. But like, I remember listening to him on that song and immediately turning the CD around going, who in the motherfuck is this? This is the weirdest and greatest thing I ever, like, immediately I was like, whoa, my ears like had like a spider sense. I was like, oh my God, I've never heard anyone rap like this. And he's not going double time. He's not going, you know, he's not ferociously eating up the track the way Busta would, or the way he's not expertly giving you a million syllables like Eminem or Royce. He's doing his own weird ninja shit. And, you know, that is so evident throughout this album. Could we talk about One Beer?
Yeah, let's go back.
So my two favorite songs on this album are One Beer and Con Carne. And I'd like to talk about both, if that's okay. So One Beer, as we alluded to before, the whole beat, right? There's no drum beat. There's drums, but there's no boom bap, kick, snare, hi-hat situation at all. It's literally a drum fill over and over and over again. I wanted to ask you guys know this song pretty well. Do you think he wrote these bars that I'm about to recite to the fills, or did he record the song to a 4/4 drum beat and then say, what would happen if I added fills and took out the kick and the snare? I always wonder that, because it's so on point and he's so locked in with these mess of drums behind him. It kind of pulls you out at first. For me,
I wouldn't be surprised at all if he wrote it to the strangeness of the actual beat. I mean, it would just lend itself to who Doom is, or lend itself to who Doom is, right?
If I ever met him, that would be literally be one of the questions I would ask him, because it's startling how locked in he is under like this messy drum pattern in the background. So, you know, it opens with a play on a Frank Sinatra song. I get a kick out of you. You know, him singing terribly. I get no kick from champagne. Mere alcohol doesn't thrill me at all. So tell me, why shouldn't it be true? I get a kick out of brew.
Yeah, he says brew. He's like, wait, isn't the whole point of this supposed to be that, like, you don't drink alcohol? That's the best part of this whole thing. He's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So let's just go through it, man. There's only one beer left, right? So another Doom trope that happens over and over again.
Yeah.
He starts a lot of his verses halfway through the first measure, right? It throws you off a little more because, right, what it should be is, yo, there's only one beer left. Or, you know, at the party, there's only one beer left. But he'll just leave that first part of the bar out and go, space. There's only one beer left. Rappers screaming all in our ears like we're deaf. Tempt me. Do a number on the label. Eat up all the MCs and drink them under the table like it's...
There's that eating MCs thing again.
Yep. There you go. Put it on my tab, kid. However you got it, foot it, cab it, iron horse it. Yo! Iron horse it.
That's
rather
amazing.
than take a train, you know? You're leaving on your face, forfeit. I crush the mic. Hold it like, I crushed the mic, hold it like the heat. He might toss it, right? So you're leaving on your face, forfeit. I crushed the mic, hold it like heat. He might toss it. That scheme. Told him they stole it. She told her he lost it. She told him to get off it and a bunch of other more shit. She told him to get off it and a bunch of other more shit.
Yeah, see, that's another. Doom does that. He just adds those extra syllables that, like, they're kind of unnecessary, but they're perfect, right?
So good. Getting money. DT's get no new leads. It's like he eating watermelon. Stay spitting new seeds. It's the weed. Give him something what he drooping off. Soon as he wake up, choking like his whooping cough. They group been soft. First hour at the open bar and they trooping off. And this is the part I put it in our notes. This is such a crazy bar. He went to go laugh and get some head by the side road. She asked an autograph her derriere. It read, too wide load. This yardbird phrase... Wait. Let me start that over because it's insane if you can follow the narrative. One more time. He went to go laugh and get some head by the side road. She asked him autograph her derriere. It read, too wide load. This yardbird tastes like fried turd. Love villain, take pride in code words. Crooked eye, mold nerd, geek with a cold heart. Probably still be speaking in rhymes as an old fart. What the fuck, man?
Amazing.
Dude.
Oh my god.
Let's break that down, okay? He went to go laugh, right? He's at the bar. He's getting fucked up. He went to go laugh with some skeezer. Sorry. Go get some head. Get some head by the side road, right? She asked him autograph her derriere. It read, too wide load, right? So he finishes his rhyme from the first line. It read, too wide load, finishes the rhyme that he started in the first part of that bar, but it's in the third sentence. Too wide load. This yardbird tastes like fried turd. Love villain. Take pride in code words. So he's sending a message on the back of this woman's back to the next guy that tries to get with her that she's not worth having. That she tastes disgusting and, you know, better to move on.
So bad.
Listen, again, we don't agree with it. We are.
No. It's rap. It's funny, man.
Part of his character is that he is a villain and he fits those, he wears those shoes well. But what an incredible bar. You know what I mean? It took me so many listens to pick that apart. And then when he says crooked eye, mold, nerd, geek with a cold heart, probably speaking in rhymes as an old fart. Just, I can't say enough about Doom, man. I mean, I could break down all the bars, but it's so special.
That thing where you said like how he comes in, he leaves a space in the beginning. He does it again in a kind of more obvious way, but it's like kind of funny in Potholders, the next song, where you go it's like in the middle of the song where he's supposed to go into the next bar. He leaves a space, but then he ends by saying could have had a V8, which is like a reference to like those old commercials where it's like someone knocks you in the head, be like, could have had a V8, but like he makes it in this same thing, Ben, where like it's like it leaves a space. You're supposed to be hearing a rap, but you're not for like the first half of the bar, and then he goes, could have had a V8, and then when your brain does like, oh shit, I see what he just did there. He just he
switched it, and that space that he leaves in these parts in his verses, right? So I've talked about this in the Viktor Vaughn episode, and I think it bears repeating, right? There's a musical expression that is said for instrumentalists, not vocalists, right? But it's the notes that you don't play that make your sound, right? And he lives by that, right? Absence is as powerful as presence in music. So leaving that space will immediately gets the listener's ear to go, huh? What? Huh? You know, it catches them off guard. It's intentional, right? It's not like he ran out of bars. No, it's like, could have had a V8. Like, oh, the space is incredible. You know? Yeah, and Nate made a good point just now. You know, there's other artists who are expert. That is from Nate, right? Yeah, there are other artists who are just as good at laying down musical notes, but like Busta Rhymes, for instance, he is like rapid fire spraying all the notes, like you know, like a technical wizard. You know what I mean? He's more on that like shredder, like guitar expert, whereas Doom is like an old blues guy, like funky, leaving parts out. Good, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the whole presentation is about space. It's about interesting pockets, not necessarily rapid fire pockets. Yeah, I could go on and on, man. I think one other song I'd love to examine with you guys is Carne, because it's just fucking crazy. Gary, you mentioned that already. The beat, right? That beat is fucking slick, smooth. And that's what I would say is the biggest difference between the first Doom album and this one is slickness. There is just a slickness on this album that, you know,
I mean, once
wasn't
you turn
there
it on,
prior.
You're in. You know, you're in because the songs are inconveniently, you know, inconvenient in length, and you're in because it sounds so weird, and you're in because you don't have a convenient stopping point, and you're going to listen to the whole thing straight through and blow right past it. You know, that's the way this album kind of, that's the listening experience, at least for me, for this album.
Totally. So he dedicates this song at the end to his deceased brother, Sub Rock, right? But it's not necessarily about him. It's just dedicated to him, right? I don't know if we're going to get all the way through it, but just like, so like to paint the picture, hopefully you've heard this album already. You got this slick, like soulful piano, right? And then he just comes in. Darker than the East River, larger than the Empire State, where the beast who guard the barbed wire gate is on the job, not my fate. Tired of the wait till the villain bring deliverance from the dire straits. Like, that's the first two bars of the fucking song, and it's like,
that's what he does, man.
Huh? Darker than the East River, larger than the Empire State, where the beast who guard the barbed wire gate is on the job, not my fate. Tired of the wait till the villain bring deliverance from the dire straits. Like, I have chills just saying it. It's dope. The fuck, dude?
And there's a line later on, like a few bars later that I wrote down. What a steal for real and wheels a steel stunner, a fun of summer #1 meal deal bummer. Like, wait, what?
How can you say that? How can you say that? A bizarre phenomenon. Is your armor on? Take your cash, comma, or break your fast, Ramadan. Transaction drama. Oh, come on, Barney. Clack, clack, porn me. Rap, con carny.
Gary, in that bar that you just said, right? He, instead of transaction, right? He goes, take your cash, karma, or break your fast, Ramadan. Transaction drama. Like, he's going transaction drama. Oh, come on, Barney. Like, what? What the fuck? That's how I feel when I listen to Doom. I just go, what the fuck?
It's a lot of that.
How in the motherfucking fucks did he think of that? Transaction drama. Oh, come on, Barney. Oh my god. Oh, what about this? He came to feed the children's like Sally Struthers. After that, going back to Cali where the love is, and then he goes, wild in the Nile. Wait,
Yeah.
wilder than the Nile, hold power like the great pyramids of Giza, and stay leaning like the Tower of Pisa. Give him something to feel or soft to squeeze a. Raw with the pen and off the mic, off the heezer. Get a shot off that wide-eyed talk, and if he had a pot, he'd still piss on the sidewalk. Can't take the street out the street person, looking for a perfect beat, coercion into heat bursting. Oh my God.
I mean, we could go on and on with this shit. Like
I can't.
It's like harder to find lines that are underwhelming. You know, like finding more lines that are underwhelming than they are. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's a back to back. It's one of those, again, like just those back to back.
And here's a great. Yeah, absolutely. But here's a great one more line I need to talk about. Like it'll go over your head so many times if you don't analyze it. Whoever get to see me sing with the 3D ring sitting stationary like BB King, right? So he's referring to his live shows. His live shows are dope. I sent you guys a video. He actually released a DVD from this tour, the Food Drive Tour, where it was part rap show, but he also encouraged all attendees to bring canned foods, and he actually raised a lot of, food to help people in need who were struggling during the holidays in 2004. But whoever get to see me sing with the 3D ring sitting stationary like BB King, right? So he doesn't run around the stage, right? He doesn't, have this big presence of dancing or just like this. The energy is it goes into his voice. He just mellowly rocks the mic. He'll groove, but he's pretty stationary. And BB King,
like BB, just like
right?
BB on that chair,
especially in the last few decades of BB's career. Mm-hmm. Rest in peace to one of the greatest musicians ever. He would just sit on a stool. You'd go see him play.
That's all you needed, though.
That's all you needed. He did his thing, sitting still, stationary. You know what I mean? So it's such a cool line, man. Such a cool line because it describes him pretty well.
What's the 3D ring?
I don't know.
We'll find that out in the next episode of. Yeah.
Yeah, but
if I could put a bow on it from my perspective, like.
Yeah.
I always have when doing notes for this project together. I have a section for dope songs. I'm like, oh, this song is dope. And then I'm like, wait a second. I'm just listing every single song on this album.
That's what I'm saying. It's an end to end.
That's right. It's like, unless... Yeah, it's very difficult to exclude songs from the dope song list in this album.
Would you guys put the masterpiece stamp on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude, all right, Pops. You still feel like charging me for that meal? When songs end like that, there's a masterpiece in the works.
And by masterpiece, right? We talk sorry, real quick. I'd like to say this, right? But what I mean by masterpiece is a perfect album, start to finish. My only critique would be that Beef Rap be separated from the intro skip, but I understand it was an intentional thing to get you in there.
It was, and Ben, I would even say that with Beef Rap, it's only a critique if you know the album, you're listening to it multiple times. If it's your first time listening to the album, it's actually perfect. It's a perfect way to intro you into this world of doom and of food theme and just like, again, like throwing in that Zappa line to later on you're gonna hear a Zappa sample. Like it's perfect for that. But yeah, like you said, like the only thing is, again, if you just want to hear the song, you just want to hear the music from Beef Rap, you either gotta listen to the skit or find like it's like a 142 or something like that, just memorize it. But yeah, aside from
there's
that,
only a few perfect albums in music, in my opinion, right? There's only a few. And I'm talking all my favorite artists, all my favorite genres. Some of my favorite artists never released a perfect album, This is one of them. This is a perfect album from start to finish. Not one complaint about the music, not one lyric, not one song, not one feature, not one moment in this album am I going, I don't know. Right?
Like, there's no weak spots, there's no lulls or anything like that.
No.
Hey, by the way, just something that was a theme that we brought up when we did the Viktor Vaughn episode. I actually forgot that we talked about this and brought it up, but Doom on the second half of all his albums has at least one track that's that's female themed, either sung by female, rap by female, or is about a woman. So on Vaudeville Villain, it was that song "Let Me Watch," if you remember.
Great
this one is it's Guinness's. where he has a guest rapper, Angelica, who's the only rapper on it. It's actually, I think, the only track that Doom doesn't rap at all on, right? And she's fucking dope, man.
I think he gets her back for Born Like This. I don't know if it's her, but it sounds like her on Born Like This.
It probably is.
It's called Still
It probably
Dope.
is. She's really good. She's really, really fucking good. But I just wanted to point that out. Like it's so it's Let Me Watch Marvel Villain. It's the song I on Mad Villain, Mad Villainy. Genesis and on Food. Still dope on Born Like This, which you're right, it's probably Angelica. Winter Blues on Key to the Cuffs.
That's the JJ Doom album.
Oh, that's JJ Doom, right? I have that. Yeah.
The only Doom project I ever heard where I was like, I don't really need to listen to that again. And
it's not bad. It's just not like on Doom level, you know. It's like season 5 of The Wire.
Okay.
So yeah, man, I think we're I think we've covered a lot on this.
And if we don't stop, like, I'll just keep going, and then it'll get uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so hungry.
I will leave. Looks like a giant hoagie you got, Gary. There's an interview that some like young kid, I guess it was an up and coming like person in hip hop back when Food came out, and did an interview with Doom. It's like a 4.5 minute YouTube interview, but I want to play a little bit of it from the beginning because it plays on what, you know, they ask him, you know, about the album, like, and an interesting question about being a villain and what he thinks about that. So let me play that real quick.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, fuck it up. Yeah. Peace, what up? Y'all know who the supervillain is. Distortion and Static, stay tuned. Yeah, we got a new album out. Just dropped a couple days ago. You know, it's called Food, for those that don't know, on Rhyme Shares Entertainment. You know, typical stuff you could expect from a villain. Beats and rhymes, you know what I'm saying, a little bit of humor. I don't want to spoil it. Y'all go check it out and, you know, we'll definitely be satisfied, you know what I'm saying?
Right on. If you are the supervillain, who's your nemesis? Who's the superhero?
The superhero? There's various different superheroes out there, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't necessarily call them my nemesis. They're just the antithesis of Doom, you know what I mean? So, you know, I could, you know, maybe I get along with him. It's not necessarily like he's my enemy. He's just him, the hero. And the hero could vary. It's whoever is playing that role. You know what I'm saying? The cool guy, the one with the chain, the one with the fancy car. I guess he would be the hero. You know what I'm saying? When we the villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's more. So the next, I recommend you guys listen to the rest of it, because the next question the guy asks, he basically kind of humbles himself, like, hey, like I make beats. Like he switches gears. Like, I want to ask you questions about what your process is for making beats. Like, what you think about that. And Doom goes on this, like, I don't want not tirade because it's not like battle, but he just goes on this like sort of tangent about such specific things with like the types of like mixers he uses and like the 808s and like, you know, doing like putting this level up. Like I was lost. Like this guy makes beats. Maybe he understood, but like there was so many, like this is what I was going back what I was talking about before, where I could tell Doom is a perfectionist because just the way he talks about the equipment and like his process of making beats on an interview that was really about his rapping, really. Like you could just tell like the way he doesn't geek out like the way most stuff does, but he just goes like you could just tell this dude is an expert. He's knowledgeable, and he may even answer this guy's question like in much more detail than the guy was prepared for, because like I was listening to the answer, I'm like I'm lost. Like holy, like what's he talking about?
This tech geek shit. Yeah,
it's a tech geek, exactly. So I recommend you guys listen. Again, the video is only like 4.5 minutes long. But yeah, I just thought that sort of perfectly encapsulated Doom and this album, and like he said it right there. We talked about a lot of these themes. It's like it's a little bit of humor with some lyrical genius. You know, like I don't know if those are words he said, but that's essentially what we've come up with in this episode about food. Like that's it. So that's why I wanted to play this after our discussion, because I wanted to sort of make us feel better. It's like, hey, everything we just talked about for the last like hour and a half, Doom felt the same way when he made the album. So like he accomplished what he sought out to accomplish, and I think so did we with this episode.
Hell yeah. And I'll just do my final take too, and then Gary, if you want to take us out with your pick for next episode. You know, I think it's a testament to how much we love this artist that in this entire episode, we didn't even mention that the album's title is an anagram of his name, like, or is like that it's just his name rearranged, like, and how fucking funny that in itself is. Like, we didn't even get to that.
Including the dots. Including the fucking
There's 2 dots.
There's 2 dots. That's for the
food.
Like, I didn't know that until I started researching for this episode. I don't know if you knew that already, Ben. I didn't realize that at all until I started researching this. No. I'm saying
what?
No, the whole thing, the thing that it is a rearrangement of the letters of MF Doom.
Does he have 2 dots at the end of his name usually?
Not anagram. There you go. No, but I think technically, it like in some places I've seen the M and F have dots at the end of each of those letters.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just MF Doom, but sometimes it's M dot F dot Doom. But the whole point is, I didn't realize that the whole thing was an anagram for food. You said you did know before this, or did you find this out while you were?
Well, I just knew that it was his name rearranged. Yeah, I just knew that it was his name rearranged. Yeah, and it's like genius. Food. Anyway, so I've said enough. All I'll say to the listener, if you got this far, thank you. Thank you for coming with us on this journey. Thank you for listening to my true story about what happened last week. It's important. This story might follow us, but thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our producer, Nate, for everything you fucking do for us. You are the man, and we love you.
Fuck yes, Nate.
And that's that. Doom is the fucking villain, and he literally raps as weird as I feel. And it's as simple as that. Gary, take us out, baby.
Yo. So next week, for this whole week, I would like us to listen to an album we've only whispered about. We didn't dare speak out loud for too long, too loud, because we didn't know if it would come to be. We didn't want to jinx it because there are so many false starts there. But it's finally landed. Let's listen to it. Let's talk about it. Let's do ELE2 by Busta Rhymes that just dropped earlier this week.
Horn sound. Boo, boo, boo.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, right. Now we can talk about it. We've been
waiting for this album for decades, literally since high school. We've been hearing that this album is going to come out. So the fact that Friday was kind of surreal, just being able to I was like, I'm listening to ELE2. This is something I didn't think I would ever get to do. This is crazy. Yeah, Gary, thank you. This is gonna be fun.
I'm so psyched for it.
Hell yeah. All right, guys, you heard it here first. Listen to that new Busted Joint ELE2. We'll meet you back here next time to talk all about it. It's going to be a doozy.
Once again, sorry, before you get out, I just want to thank Red Walrus, our boy Fred, for providing the music. Once again, that is the glue for the show. What brings people, listening instead of just listening to Two Jews and a Guyanese Kid, you're listening to Two Jews and a Guyanese Kid and some dope beats. So thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. Where always, yeah, exactly. And once again, yeah, thank you, Nate. Maybe Nate will chime in for the next one since we're all fresh on it. So
we'll see you here next time, guys. Peace.
Peace. Hey yo, programming note. I know Gary mentioned ELE2 would be the next episode, but as you may know, we already published that one. Hope you guys got a kick out of us geeking out to another God MC. Next episode, we go a little old school talking about Radio by LL Cool J, 1985. Hope you enjoy that one, and once again, rest in peace, Doom.